Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of the X Button. I am one of your hosts, Alejandro, and with me it's my Fallout sheltered Paul. How you doing, Paul? Yeah.
What's up, everyone?
Yeah.
You had it there. You maybe like just another push, you would have got something
Yeah,
out of
Bolt
that.
Survivor. I should have said Bolt
There it
Survivor.
is.
Where do you get that shirt, by the way?
Shoot, honestly, I think I got it at GameStop. You know when they did that weird
Uh-huh.
craze where they folded up shirts and just jammed them into this little packaging?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's how I got it. It was like $10.
Makes
But
sense.
I mean it's starting to fall apart, but it's got a soft spot in my heart for sure.
Oh, yes. The good old times on Fallout was the bee's knees before.
Mm.
It
I
went
still
through some
think
dark
that trailer
stages.
for Fallout 4 was one of the hypest I ever got for a game.
Oh,
Plus,
yes.
like
Everyone.
finding out it was coming out later in the year and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That was just amazing. Anyway,
Yeah. So how's life been, Paul?
it's been well. It's a lot of. I feel like I say the same thing every time. It's just a lot of work, but I'm also finding a little extra time to play now. I got a few things on our book club of what I've been playing that's new than compared to what I was playing.
Mm-hmm.
But besides that, I'm just doing my thing and been drawn a little more, trying to do some concept art for something that I have in the pipeline. But besides that, what have you been up to?
Well, other than like my house finally finishing its renewal station, now being in a new room, so people looking at the video will notice that I look a little bit more yellow because my room has no windows. So I'm using my light, my phone light, to give me a little white light, but then the rest of my room has like yellow lights. So I look a little bit more colorful, a little more HDR, 4K HDR for the peeps there,
You
or
do look
HDR 10.
very what was it? The guy from Mass Effect with the crazy eyes. The guy that ran Cerberus.
Oh yes, the elusive man.
Yeah. You got like the kind of orange on that side.
Yes. Man, I wish I had
Very
the back. I had the
cryptic.
sunshine background with me, like with the big sun at the
Oh,
back.
that would be good. Yeah.
Yeah, but because we're already settled in this X's, and the good thing is that we got our backgrounds because oh my god, I wouldn't want people to watch my room right now. And then so
You and me both.
yeah, so trying to finish the move, we had a little bit of a family tragedy last week. We had to put down a dog that we had for like 10 years, so that was rough because it happened all so sudden. So I had to like recover emotionally a little bit about that. But thankfully, thanks to some friends and just talking it out, I feel fine now. I just feel for my brother who's still feeling it. But yeah, and then just playing some stuff. So since we're on the topic, Paul, what have you been playing?
As my usual ones, have been playing a lot of Guilty Gear and trying to get better with that. But the two in new editions that I've been playing were on sale. One of which was Thomas Was Alone
Mm-hmm.
by Mike Bithell Games, and that was very strange, kind of avant-garde indie style game of like
Mm-hmm.
puzzle and each
That
character
one's
is a
old.
different shape. Yeah, I never played it, but I listened to their podcast long enough to know about it, and it was like 99 cents on the store. So I was like, hey,
Yeah, what was it called? The podcast? It's not Eat
play,
Sleep
watch,
Play.
listen.
Play Watch Listen. Yes.
So yeah, I played that, and then the other one was This Is the Police. I forget the people that play it, but or that made it, but basically it's like a management game in like I think the 80s or something. But you're
Mm-hmm.
a police chief and you've got to like run all of the stuff. But the idea is being you are constantly being pressured to make compromises for the sake of efficiency and like
Mm-hmm.
the morality department. So like, are you going to work with the organized crime? Are you going to let this dude that like clearly is in over in his head with the mafia let his parents and family get killed, or are you going to save him and work with them? And I feel like it got a little heavy handed for a little bit, and it's a very repetitive game, but I like the art style. It's like a very simplistic um, look to it. You can take a look at some of the screenshots of it because that's about all the gameplay is really good for. But it was something I was like, oh, this is nice, but I think I'd rather just go play a city management game rather. So anyway, that's what I've been playing.
If
Alejandro,
only
what
there
about you?
was a SimCity in console, right?
I know, right? Which I have been playing. I was going to go back to City Skylines soon.
Which
So
is
maybe,
the only legit SimCity style game on console right now,
right.
since real SimCity died a gruesome death 80 years ago.
Pretty rough.
So for me, I've been all over the place with what I've been playing. So like obviously, like I mentioned you last week, or I surprised you with, I got a PS5. So
Yeah, really.
this last week has just been downloading a bunch of games, and just because since I never had a Pro, so trying to go back to some games that I knew had like PlayStation 4 Pro enhancements, like maybe better frame rate and all that, and finally getting to test that out. So like Shadow of the Colossus, getting to run that bad boy at 60 frames is transformative. Um, got to like play a little bit of the 2016 Ratchet and Clank just to see how it ran, and deciding whether if I want to go through that first before touching Rift Apart, kind of like I told you last week, that I'm feeling a little not in the mood for that one, but I just wanted to see if it looked just as smooth. Both games look so smooth. The thing, I think it's more to the testament of how great the 2016 one was, that it can look that pretty and run that smooth with the recent patch. Um, Played a bit of Resident Evil 4 because I was playing a little bit as I was waiting for my PS5. I was like, I'm an itch to play something old, and I was playing through that, and I transferred my save to PS5 and went through there. That one doesn't really have any real enhancements, but I think it's just more a testament that the backwards compatibility in the PS5, I'm glad it works, with the exception of one game that I'm very heartbroken doesn't work. Assassin's Creed Syndicate. You should look videos of what happened to that game in the transition to PS5. It's unbelievable. Like the lighting flickers like this
Really?
all the time. And it's like, you can get used to it, but it's like, this is, afterwards, I'll send you a video of it. It's just like, it's such a shame because every other game works. And I'm like, that's kind of what I was fearing a little bit, because I wanted to have an excuse to just sell my PS4 and just have the PS5.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, Assassin's Creed Syndicate is like my favorite Assassin's Creed of the last generation, even before we got the switch ups or from Origins onward. That if I ever want to replay all the like old, because I like doing this every year, where if I like a series a lot, I like replaying the entire thing, like I did last year in between our break with our podcast with Uncharted, that I went through all of them, with the exception of Lost Legacy that I haven't played still. Replay it still. Like I'm like, I want to go through them all again. And if I ever do that with Assassin's Creed, like whenever every Syndicate, should I have to like switch to my PS4 to play a game that doesn't have lighting that's so screwed up?
Yeah.
I hope eventually they touch it, or they do like a director's cut, or like a retouching of those games. Even though I feel the future of Assassin's Creed is going to be very bleak, as we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
It makes me worry. I'm like, man, that sucks. That's the only one that doesn't really work, because Unity still works, Black Flag works, 2 Brotherhood, Revelation. I've literally been testing every single game that I'm like, did this have prune pencils? I want to see this. And it works so nice. Even like Ghost of Tsushima, I tried, and I'm like, my God, seeing it run that smooth.
Yep.
And
welcome to the future.
Yes, but that's the thing. The PS4 Pro didn't even run it this smooth. This is like specific for the PS5, and I'm just now wondering. Now with the director's cut coming up, I have to wait for the Digital Foundry video, kind of like I did with Spider-Man, to see them like next to each other and be like, they already patched this thing for 60 frames. Like even Last of Us, that's actually Last of Us Part 2 has been the game that I played the most.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, kitty. Here is the debut of the cat known as the Devil. They're just kidding. What's her name?
His name is Raspberry.
Okay. Hey, Raspberry.
He is a good boy.
Yeah, you probably can't hear me, but
he's a wild one. He's
there it is. It's like there's the licking. but yeah, Last of Us was like the last game I tested in 60 frames, and that's the one that I kept up with, because kind of like to your surprise, yeah, that game wasn't 60 frames when we played it on PS4, but it ran at such a smooth 30 that it tricked and had the motion blur techniques to make everything seem smoother, that it tricked your mind. But that's the thing, no amount of trickery can compare to running that thing at 60. And how much it improves the aiming of your gun, how much it improves the movement, everything. Plus that, because that game's already so pretty, I was like, yeah, I played all the way to the Seattle open world area with Ellie and Dina.
Mm-hmm.
And just seeing that you love, like, I wonder if they also did something to the resolution of that game, because even though I don't have a 4K TV, everything just looks so much cleaner. Like, so much cleaner. You should test it out. Like, the patch was free.
I might, honestly. Because I mean, I think I mentioned it maybe last or 2 weeks ago that since it's been about a year, I kind of want to revisit Last of Us 2 from like the beginning, because I played through it once and then I played through it a second time, well, like halfway through, sort of. And then that's when I was like, if I play this any longer, I'm going to get real burnt out on it, because the gameplay's really fun.
Yes.
But I did not want to deal with everything else.
Yeah, with the BS of the, with some of the BS of the story.
I was legitimately skipping the cutscenes just to play through the game. But I feel like I need to give it like another solid shot at just really feeling it, accepting whatever I see.
Yeah.
And just kind of watching it unfold.
Yeah, I'm like, I've always, I think, feel like I'm in an island saying that I really like the story of that game, but I understand for some people some of the problems it has. And kind of re-immersing me, because I did platinum that game, which meant I had to play it twice to get like all the collectibles, get all the upgrades, all of that. So I played that game for a good 46 hours. So that's why I didn't touch it again. And I was hoping that they may have patched in maybe new trophies. That's kind of like, I wouldn't mind the director's cut of The Last of Us Part 2, especially now that we know Sony is in the director's cut.
You're part of the problem, Alejandro.
Yes. But that's the thing. If the upgrades are like reasonably priced, as we're going to talk later, I think it's worth it. Having to pay $70 for the full thing again, no, ain't doing that. But for us that own the previous version, have like a little bit of an upgrade path, I'm like, yeah, I'm, as long as like the upgrades are worth it, and if they have enough content that to justify it, like Ghost of Tsushima, I feel it's a wait and see to see how big the new island is going to be, because they're charging $30 for the basically the director's cut of that thing and the upgrade for the PS5 specific enhancements. And we'll talk about another game that already detailed what they're going to add to justify his director's cut. Like, as long as everything's like worth, it seems like it's worth the extra dough, I think it's worth it. And I feel like that platinum was also fun because it made you find the collectibles, and Last of Us is specifically about, it's not just about the storytelling that you see, it's about the one that you find. And I feel it's at its strongest in its environmental storytelling. That was true in the first game, and I feel that was just as true in the second game, even deeper in the second game.
I'm very bad at ignoring that, just for the sake of moving forward, especially like, I mean, I don't want to say it, but like, you know, your Horizon Zero Dawn, where it has a lot of good stuff in there, but there's also so much that like I'm in the middle of trying to do something. I don't want to sit there and listen to this play out.
Yeah. Especially with its audio thing. Yeah. I feel BioShock is the one that's done it best, because you grab the radio thing, but you can keep exploring and you hear it like a podcast.
Unless like a cutscene plays with like actual important dialogue, then it'll cut it off, but usually it'll let it play.
Exactly, yeah. But Horizon is kind of like in the BioShock phase. If you find an audio, you have to press triangle and you can keep moving and hearing. You don't have to stand there. But I can get you that if you just want to get through it, like, because there's so many, like when you go to the bunkers in that game, there's so many audio things. Like,
that's
so
the
many
problem. They'll be like right next to each other, and they're not spaced out for you to be able to listen to all of it. So you just got to like pick a bunch of them, and whatever the last one is, like, all right, I guess I'll let that one play, and then keep running.
And it doesn't do the thing that if you scan one and you didn't press triangle in the moment, you have to go to the pause menu and find it. But then you have to play it and hear it while in the pause menu instead of while you're roaming. I think that's the one area that I hope the sequel fixes, because so much of that game is also the subtext, kind of like what I was telling you. Like, this is much about what you see and also as much as about what you find, and that's what made that world so enthralling. So, but yeah, that's what I was playing on PS5. But ironically, the thing that I've been playing the most because of what's coming up this Friday is The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time on GameCube. Because of course, Nintendo, there's no way to play the thing in the Switch. And the only way to play like a modern version of that thing is in the 3DS that I don't even own.
Yep.
So,
which I wouldn't even suggest playing it on the 3DS.
I played it on the 3DS. Yeah, I played it.
Man, even without the 3D, it just messed me up, and I could not play it. So I was like, I'm just gonna wait until it comes back
Yeah.
on some kind of console.
One of our friends, one of the friends of our friend PJ, his name is Jordan. He had a 3DS that he let me borrow back in 2017, and I got to play Ocarina of Time, the 3DS there, and also
Nice.
Majora's Mask, which was actually the first time I ever played through Majora's Mask. And that was like the best way to play those games. But because I never owned a 3DS, because I was already long past handheld gaming at that time, and I didn't find it worth it personally. And the games that I wanted were already super expensive. If you wanted to get like a Ocarina of Time on 3DS, suddenly became like a collector's item. So you can find it like at $130. I was like, F that. I'm not doing that.
Jeez.
So, and because the Switch doesn't have it yet, and we don't know if it will, so I had to like dust off my Wii, plug that sucker in, find my GameCube controller, find my discs, and got to play Ocarina of Time on progressive scan and a pristine 480p, which I tell you, that game looks ugly.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that game, like, but it's funny seeing it and also playing Resident Evil 4. You see the techniques that they did with like pre-rendered backgrounds.
Oh yeah,
Like
that's
static
always
pre-rendered. Yeah. So you're like, so that's how kind of they got around with like some of the detail here. That sometimes can get exposed if you put it through a high definition screen. But Ocarina of Time's so good. And there's a reason that game is considered one of the greatest games of all time and one of the most influential games of all time. Like its design holds up so well. And I've also been trying to break it a little bit or trying to like break it down to understand how people figure it out, because that's a game that when I was younger, it was tough for me to really figure it out and all that. And realizing how much that game points you out to where you need to go and how stupid I was when I was a kid to not really figure out that you have a map that has a dot that shows you where to go that I never even used back then. Or even if you're just wandering around, Navi would tell you, hey, why don't we go to this place? Mm-hmm. And then when you're in places, you talk with people. You actually have to like go to people. Suddenly someone's going to give you a tip with like red, with red font that gives you, that's what it means. So it's like it points you enough, but you can still figure it out. So especially I've been more cognizant of that after replaying Super Metroid a few weeks back, where that game doesn't tell you anything at all. And Zelda, at the very least, points you without giving it to you in a platter. So it's been interesting. Now that I have my Wii plugged in, I also have the Wind Waker during GameCube, and I also have my Wii version of Twilight Princess. Mm-hmm. And I'm debating, should I play them now? Or should I like save it for the eventuality, if the rumors and speculations are correct, that we're actually going to get those on Switch? But that's the thing. I have the hunger now. I want to play them now. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be a little bit of a
like
pickle.
You might benefit from playing it now. Like, say it is true. Mm-hmm. You play it now, and then you get to see all the benefits, or lack thereof.
Yeah.
Or
likelihood.
You play it now and it never comes. Yeah, who knows about that?
I had a bad experience with that. Like I was replaying Metroid Prime 2 years ago on GameCube also. And I was planning, and then I was eventually going to try to see, because I never had 2. I only had Metroid Prime 1 and 3, but I never had Metroid Prime 2 for some reason. I was going to try to find it through the black market or whatever you want to find it, like through secondhand, because you probably can get it pretty cheap somewhere. And there were rumors. There was like a listing from Walmart Canada. This is funny. Like the week of E3 2018 or something like that, if I remember, there were a bunch of leaks of games that ended up being true, others that didn't not happen. One of them was Metroid Prime Trilogy on Switch, which Metroid Prime Trilogy was like the Wii version that made Metroid Prime 1 and 2 have the Metroid Prime 3 controls, like motion control and all that. That was a limited collector's item. One that, again, if you find it right now, the physical with the steel book, you can find it for $300. Oh my God. Which is nuts, because that's how valued that thing is. Before on the Wii U store, they put it for $20 digitally. Ooh. Yeah. But if you wanted the steel case, of course, you're going to pay $300 for a platinum steel case. Right. Yeah, but which no game's worth $300. No. when I found out about that, I was like, God damn it. Should I keep playing here or should I wait for the Switch? And I was like, I'll wait. And the thing never came out. And I'm
Yep.
like, and there's rumors that it may happen, that they're kind of saving it. It's kind of like, apparently Nintendo does this, that they have things in their back pocket, like the Pikmin 3 Definitive Edition that came out last November.
Yeah.
Apparently they had that thing done for 2 years and they just sat on it until they had to like just put it out. So
I don't know why or how, but I mean, considering how prevalent they are with doing stuff like that, it does make it more hopeful. I mean, that's probably why there's so much conjecture on what is and isn't getting made, because it's like, oh, this would make sense. They're probably just sitting on it. But then at the same time, why do you make something just to sit on?
right. Like you would like if you make something, you would want to like sell it to like recoup, right? But again, Nintendo, just the most bizarre company when it comes to actual business decisions. And they keep getting away with it. But yeah, I'll keep playing Ocarina of Time. Just relive the nostalgia of replaying it. Even though and there's also something warm and fuzzy of actually playing the N64 version on GameCube that they quote unquote remastered or at least cleaned up. Because I actually have a very rare copy of the game. You see if it shows up here. I have the disc here. This was a very please show. There it is. It shows. So, this one here was rare. It was like original in the US. You could only get it if you pre-ordered this.
Really?
Yeah, that was the only way to get it.
Huh.
Ironically, in El Salvador, somehow like one of our stores got a copy just to sell it, and that's how I bought it. And you can't find it. Then the other way that they released it was like a collector's edition that had both Majora's Mask, Ocarina, and had the first Zelda and Link to the Past all together. I never got that one. A friend got that one, but there's something special knowing that I have that one and it still works.
Yeah, because that's the method that I learned about it, because obviously I didn't really do much Nintendo 64 playing back in the day. And it wasn't until one of my friends had that version of, like, I think it was the Master's Quest editions.
Yes, that's the one that has Master Quest.
And he played it on GameCube, and I was like, what the crap is this? And like he was playing through the part with the redeads. I was like, this is horrifying. What is going on?
Yeah.
And I think that might have been the first exposure to Legend of Zelda that I had, plus like watching him play through Wind Waker, because I kept getting stuck on it. And he would tell me like what to do, where to go. And that's how I found out about Game Facts. And that started a whole wave.
And let me guess, you got stuck when you had to like be swimming. You have to be riding the boat around to find specific islands that will have the specific item that will let you enter some stuff. I remember that really well. Yeah.
Everything kind of leading up to it, because I was like, what is this about? Like the possibility of teleporting. What am I supposed to do with the frogs? Like, what is going on? And then it actually glitched out and it wouldn't produce one of the Triforce shards for me. Ooh. So I have never beaten Wind Waker.
Yikes. Maybe someday, if it comes to our machine of choice.
That's what I'm hoping. Like one day, I'm just gonna want to go through and actually finish the game.
Yeah.
Because I love it. It's my favorite, and it sucks that I never.
Your favorite that you never even finished, but because
I know.
It's just looking at it makes you your favorite, right?
It is. It feels great. I love the music. Every moment of like kind of figuring out how the game played, and then. I spent so much time just going through the world, figuring out what to do with each island. It was awesome.
Yeah. I'm debating because, again, like I told you, I'm in a hunger to want to play it. So more on that later. And then just as a final thing, I think The Legend of Zelda Low Key doesn't get enough credit how much of a horror series it is.
It's terrifying.
Yeah, it's terrifying. Especially the Ocarina of Time. I think it's just the art style that it picked. But my God, that game's creepy even today.
I think it's more creepy today because of how like limited
the
polygons were. Because I've actually realized that if I play retro games, whatever that's scary about it is way scarier. Watching some of these like jacked up looking tiny like 16 polygon looking zombies compared to stuff now. It's like, okay, well, it's a CG zombie, that's I get it.
But
like there's something
right?
in my head, like I don't know if you know the original Thief games for the PC. The zombies in that game You can look up a screenshot of it. Are some of the scariest freaking things because like they have this weird triangle head. It's just like a little 2D mat just stuck on the front of their face. It's horrifying. It gave me nightmares back in the day.
Yeah, but
anyway.
Ocarina of Time specifically because of its inherent ugliness for being an N64.
Yeah.
It's surprisingly creepy even now. So I just found that really funny. But yeah, enough of what we've been playing because we got I think a little bit of a chunky one.
We've been getting chunky soup for the last like 4 months out here.
Yes, I've been like I remember back last year when we started this show and we were getting close to the summer. Obviously, we had the pandemic of it all, and we had to like put a stop as we were rethinking how we were going to reapproach this and all that. I was like, yeah, the summer's going to be really quiet. The summers are going to be really quiet, so we have to like figure out topics and all that to just fill up space. This summer, not at all, not at all. Like we haven't even recorded the evergreen ones because it just feels like there's always something happening, like what happened last week. So, oh, press X.
Or some news.
All right, Paul. So we didn't do that because probably people realized that last week that we finally found a newscast sound that I found. So yeah,
I loved it, by the way.
Yeah. So that's
listen to that.
Yeah. So that'll be our new sound then. And so yeah, Paul. Last week when we recorded, literally the day after, Nintendo had to drop the mother of all bombs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and because of that, we actually decided to start a new initiative here at the X Button called the X Button Reacts. So that means that if we record something, like we're always going to be recording weekly or podcast, but if something huge happens that just didn't quite land on podcast recording time, but it also feels so pertinent and we have to talk at the moment, that's when we're going to react to stuff. And also we'll do probably trailer reacts of other things, time willing, kind of like normal YouTubers would sometimes do. So we talked about this in our reacts. Nintendo announced officially a new Nintendo Switch model that we kept hearing rumors about for months at this point. Even last year, I think probably they're telling about a new revision of the Switch.
Alejandro, I'm going to cut you off right now because you said we're dropping bombs out here, but I think this was a dud.
Yes, exactly. No, that's the thing. It was a bomb that whose fuse didn't go off.
Yeah.
So Nintendo officially announced a new Nintendo Switch model, the Nintendo Switch OLED edition. However, the reveal came with many caveats, hence the bomb didn't go quite off despite them dropping it, including the fact that despite this coming 40 years after the original Switch, this is not the power upgrade the rumors and reports claimed it would be. So the new machine includes a slightly bigger OLED screen, a better kickstand, more internal memory, 64 gigabytes, and a dock that includes a built-in Ethernet port. As for where did the reported power went, a speculation ranges from Nintendo looking at the market and seeing that the silicon shortage was real, and they opted out of it because they saw how that was plaguing production of the PS5 and the Xbox Series S and X. Or other speculation is that the specs are actually the ones Nintendo are R&Ding for whatever the new official successor of the Nintendo Switch will be. And people think that the reports kind of crisscross the information because those things are pretty much built in the same factories where they do R&D and all of that. So maybe some cables got crossed there in the reporting. Regardless, the new device launches on October 8th, 2021, just in time for the release of the highly anticipated Metroid Dread. Paul, we talked about this in our Nintendo in our new Nintendo Switch Reacts. Any further thoughts that you have on that?
Well, just like my thoughts in there, I think I like the built-in Ethernet port because Wi-Fi gaming is, as a requirement, is not a great option. Always having some kind of built-in option is better. I mean, I like the idea of the OLED, but I think the people that are going to be playing mostly in mobile are not going to appreciate the OLED as much as anyone else who has actually been wanting power upgrades.
So since the thing dropped, some outlets actually went hands-on with the device, and they said that when you put the two switches on handheld mode next to each other, the OLED screen makes a massive difference, like
Really?
massive in color, because OLED is completely different to LCD. So colors will pop more. So like if you're playing let's say Breath of the Wild in handheld mode, like if when you look at it next to each other, they say that the normal Switch looks a little bit more washed out, and then the other ones like the color spot, like when you're running through the fields, it looks way too green sometimes.
Well, okay.
So
So let me amend my statement. I was
yes,
thinking more the people who are
playing
really
on
going
TV.
after it. Yeah, the people who really want this stuff are going to be playing it on TV. The people that play it handheld are probably not as focused on the popping of the color because for me, I'm holding it this far away already. Unless
Mhm.
it's like just really out there, like I could barely see anything. I'm like having to look at the
Yes.
screen like what's that all the way over there on this tiny little screen.
Yeah.
So I mean that's one reason I stopped playing Breath of the Wild was because I only had availability for it on like mobile. But
Mhm.
I think this is great. It's just not.
Yeah.
I don't care.
It's this thing. Let me put it in context. This OLED edition is coming to the day like with the same amount of time the Xbox One had the Xbox One X upgrade.
Yeah.
4 years. Like the Xbox One came out in 2013. The Xbox One X, which was an improvement in power and everything, came 4 years later. So we're getting this new model 4 years later, but it's just an improved screen. And that to me is like if I feel this is perfect just for the people that like playing in handheld and just want the prettiest thing in handheld. But then at the same time, I'm like, if you're much of a handheld player, you probably want the thing that takes less space to take with you, and you have the Nintendo Switch Lite for it.
Hmm.
So that's kind of like where I'm like, but I learned that apparently the new dock will be sold separately and will work with the current Switch.
See,
So
now that's even like uh, I would almost say that makes the new model obsolete right off the bat
yeah,
because they're selling it separately.
yeah, because the machine like the OLED one is not going to have any improvement if you play on TV. It's going to look exactly the same. So
Right.
it's just a benefit for people that want a prettier screen if they're on their go and they don't mind the thing being bigger. That's all I'm thinking. To me, as someone that lately has been playing the Switch more on TV than in handheld because I don't use public transportation. I don't go outside to the park to play on my Switch. If I play it in handheld, maybe I'm playing it while laying on my bed, and even then I barely do that. So
Right.
not for me, but excited for the people that are gonna get it because Nintendo will sell this thing no matter what, even if it's $50 more expensive. Which, by the way, I forgot to put it's $349.99. You can still get the normal one for $299.99, and then just get the dock if you care about plugging it in. Because trust me, Wi-Fi on the Switch is not good.
Playing online, being a guy that used to do a lot of online Smash Ultimate, it's not great.
Yeah. Oh, trust me, I tried that with Super Mario Maker 2. It was abysmal.
Oh yeah,
So number two, Paul, we didn't do a reacts for this because things happened. I
there's a
mentioned
lot
it.
going on.
Yeah, a lot happened. It's after its last presentation back in February and post E3 2021, PlayStation put out another 30-minute state of play last Thursday. However, we get all super hyped up, aroused, and excited. Those expecting the presentation to shed some light on Sony's future first party plans, because they sure haven't said anything since September 2020. The company announced ahead of time this presentation was going to be third party and indie focused, with more info about their first party stuff coming later this summer, maybe August. I'll say why later. Announcements included Moths 2 coming for PSVR, Arcade Geddon, an early access four-player multiplayer shooter game from Ilphonic, the depths of Friday the 13th and Predator Hunting Grounds, that released on the same day as the presentation. Diablo-looking Tribes of Midgard, announcing their post-launch seasonal plans. I don't think they even announced when the release date was. So yeah, cool that they tell us what they're going to happen later. The Chinese-developed cyberpunkish furry Metroidvania Fist, which by the way, that game looks phenomenal. It's like a guy with the character, like it's a rabbit, but
Rabbit with like a robot arm on his back
yes,
or something.
yes. Fist, Fist. I don't remember what it Fist stands for
Forged in something tower.
in something tower. Yeah, it comes out on September 7th for both PS4 and PS5. A melee battle royale with generic name Hunter's Arena, which, by the way, that game looks awful, coming out next week. I mean, next month. Stylish martial arts game Thifu, which they announced in the last state of play, which actually looked really cool. Got delayed till 2022, which is sad, but if it's gonna make the game better, no complaints here. A space exploration indie game Jet to Far Shore, which was announced at the PS5 reveal event. They announced food exploration instead of just ship exploration that we only saw when the game was revealed, and they only put a 2021 date for this thing. So it might slip, but it may come out this year. They might just be waiting to put a date. Are you a big Demon Slayer fan?
I am a pretty decent Demon Slayer fan. Maybe not for this next statement, but
yeah. Well,
I'm glad it's happening at least.
A video game adaptation of hit animes, Demon Slayer, is coming out October 15th, and it's being made by the guys that made the Naruto games on Xbox 360.
It looks like it is.
It looks exactly like it. They gave us a new look at the sequel for the Yakuza spin-off Judgment called Lost Judgment. I didn't even know that they had announced a sequel for that game. Apparently, Judgment was pretty good. And probably the big one for us, the further details about Death Stranding's director's cut, which was announced at Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest, and they had promised that more info was coming in the coming weeks, and that turned out correct. Info is here. It's going to be available on September 24. And later, not in the video presentation, this was done in a video by a Kojima Productions PR representative. He announced that if you own Death Stranding on PS4, this is going to cost you $10, this upgrade, which includes 4K 60 frames per second. That's nice. New battles, advanced combat mechanics, which means new melee and more weapons, a firing range, a cargo catapult, ramps, and more transfer possibilities. New story missions. That's what that one raised my eyebrow. And the one that made me laugh uncontrollably was a racing mode. So, and then finally, a 9-minute presentation about Deathloop, the Bethesda exclusive we're getting for at least a year before it comes out on Xbox, which further emphasizes the Dishonored plus Hitman plus Dark Souls hybrid approach, like with the time reversal and all that. And it's coming out on September 14, 2021. Paul, what do you think of the state of play?
Overall, it's a good spread.
Yeah.
I think it's a solid range of genres. I think it's a good look at a lot of ambitious titles that are under the, I wouldn't say Sony umbrella, but I mean, like they're more or less being cared for by them. Mm-hmm. I had a few standout examples and a few that I just really didn't vibe with me at all. I mean, I love the seafood when they showed that. I love the extra gameplay and kind of how the aging was working with that. I don't know how. I feel like it's got to be extended a little bit, because just imagine the couple of times you died in the trailer and then he was like 14 years older. So I was like, he's gonna run out of years real quick if I'm playing this game. A few of them seemed all right. I mean, I like the idea of the Hunter's Arena with like fighting game plus battle royale, but it looked so generic that it wasn't really getting me. Honestly, I'm not a huge fan of Fist. It just looks not really like the thing that I would vibe with as much. 2D Metroidvania.
Yeah, I do. So that's for me.
Furry, weird sci-fi. I mean, like, kind of has a possibility. Somebody said it's just edgy Star Fox. About the rabbit. I love Moss, but I wish I had VR to actually experience it. I'm heavily sleeping on the Demon Slayer game because it looks so basic. Like, they haven't expanded much with any of, like, gameplay wise. The cinematics look great, but gameplay wise, it looks just like Ultimate Ninja Storm, because I played all 4 of those. And I know that's some people's like real cream of the crop there. So like, I'm going to give it to them. I know some people really love it. That one's not for me. I wasn't a big fan of Judgment either. And apparently it's possible that's not even going to happen in the future.
Yeah, because of the whole thing of appearing on Steam and
So to
and the talent agency being like, no, it can't. It's like, that's weird. I didn't put that in the story, but that's strange.
just go look it up, y'all.
Yeah.
It's a weird story.
Yeah.
But Death Stranding director's cut, I like it. It's like Death Stranding has a lot of awesome stuff and a lot of really dumb stuff, because the idea, same complaint that I had with Metal Gear Solid 5, you have all these cool mechanics, all of these cool guns, and then they punish you the heck out of it. I was really worded, but they punish you for using all of your lethal weapons. But it's like, why are you going to do that if you're going to give me like 50 lethal weapons and then like 3 non-lethal weapons, and then say that's the only viable way to play this game?
Yeah.
Plus,
Metal Gear Solid 5 is like, it's not quite that they punish you for using the weapons, but if you're looking for S ranks and all of that,
right,
you probably don't need that. So.
But then like also, if you kill anyone, you don't get to actually extract them, so it's very much within your benefit to only do non-lethal, to knock out, to extract, to do all that stuff. And then not to mention, if you kill more, the horn grows, and then eventually you get like covered in blood, because they're like, oh, look at how horrible of a person you are. So that one's like not exploding the gameplay side of it as much, but Death Stranding really hits you over the head if you play lethally, because it like ruins parts of the map.
Yeah, it explodes. Like if you kill someone, you have to like take it to an incinerator, or that's gonna create an event horizon that like explodes everything and deforms the map, which is crazy.
It's just so out of the way for something that it's like, come on, guys. Let's
makes it more interesting, because that was the basic conceit of why you shouldn't play that game lethally in the PS4 version. And now they're adding new battles of firing range and more weapons and advanced combat mechanics.
Which like I see, because new melee stuff, like I see that they're trying to flesh out that side of it, because most of the time you're meleeing with like a couple shots.
It was 2 punches and a kick, like Snake.
Or throwing the briefcase at somebody's head. I love the little tether shot where you get a headshot and it wraps around their head and stuns them. But it's like, after a while, that got really boring, and you would just very easily kind of be able to get around all of those things. Even the BT encounters, I figured out how to cheese that, where you don't even really sneak around, you just run. They try to pull you in, you get out, try to pull you in, you get out, and then you just keep running.
The BT boss battles were not good. They were the limit with like, especially if you didn't have any weapons, it was just about throwing the grenades at them. It just never felt satisfying enough and then if you had like all the packages and they hit you, they would flow all over the place and you have to pick it up again and all that stuff.
If anything, I do like the more traversal options for the cargo catapult, the ramps, more transport, like the little buddy that rides with you. Like that sounded cool, because that's most of what you're going to be doing.
The catapult itself, like just shooting yourself like Mario 64 style with the
that just looks hilarious. The stuff
that's Kojima.
And I'll give it to him. That's awesome. And if I have it, maybe one day if I feel weak, I'm gonna upgrade, but I probably won't. Last thing, Deathloop. It's like I told you, it's like I want to know how like the meat of this is actually going to play out. It kind of, each of the trailers kind of does the same thing. You do some cool stuff, you take out one of the 2 bosses, and then the chick kills you at the end with like some kind of quip. That's how all of them have played out. What I want to see is let me see how that's going to fit together. Like, show me what's going to really happen. Are there like actual missions? Is this all one event that you're going to keep redoing? What happens if you actually kill the girl and you win? What does that do? And like, how does it happen? Because you said you can play as her and invade other people.
Yes, it's like the like Dark Souls. That's the whole Dark Souls of it all. Like having another player invading you.
Some of the other things, like I like the idea, but I just want to see how these puzzle pieces fit together, because we've kind of seen them do the same thing of like, all right, these are the puzzle pieces in this example, but don't worry, there's going to be all sorts of crazy ways to do it. It's like, why don't you just show us a couple?
For us to figure it out. They don't want to show everything about the game.
I mean, you don't have to show everything. I just think they're only showing, like, look at Hitman trailers, for instance. You show a bunch of different options for doing things, and I get a good idea of it. I know it's not something I'm going to spend like 60 hours playing, but I get it. But like Deathloop, it feels like they're doing the same kind of thing each time. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like not in a good place for it right now.
Yeah, I would say go watch the trailer from both the PS5 reveal event and the one from the PS5 price reveal event. That's one in September. It looks different enough. I think I get a better idea in how the time loop mechanic is going to work and how things once you kill something that sticks and then you leave specific things in certain enemies that if you fail something, you have a way to like recoup what you have and
That
all
was
that kind of
cool.
stuff. So yeah, I'm already
Because
seeing the continuity instead of just being like and they confirm it's not a roguelike. That was my big fear that it was gonna be like a
yeah,
roguelike style game, but this it's not. That's why
right. I think it's just using time loops as like a
Mhm.
plot device rather than a gameplay loop.
Yeah, more as an SSD flex. That's basically a little kill from your back then. It's
I'll give him that.
yeah.
So yeah, it's got my interest enough with like the style and the play, but I'm gonna need to see a little more before I'm sold. What
Yeah,
about
I would
you?
say definitely we have to wait for reviews on that one. So for me, the big three for me from this presentation, the ones I really fought for were obviously Deathloop, because I actually Dishonored 2 was a game I almost played to just set some PS5 early because I just love that kind of game so much. So
Such a good game.
I want to try that. Obviously, I was a huge Death Stranding fan. So kind of like what I was mentioning earlier, this seems like the kind of director's cut that's appropriately priced. It's just 10 bucks. Like for what they're giving for just $10, it almost feels like a steal just reading this list.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm like, oh, that's especially compared to the $30 is for Ghost of Tsushima. It's very strange seeing that every different Sony. Well, Kojima Productions is not really a Sony-owned developer. It's its own independent thing, even though Death Stranding is a PlayStation console exclusive. It's on PC. Uh, I find it interesting that they still put the director's cut label, but everyone's pricing it differently. And I feel in a way this makes the Ghost of Tsushima one look bad, unless people actually show that what the island they're adding is substantive enough
I guess it depends
for the
because
$20 plus the $10 upgrade.
this kind of looks like a $10 to $20 upgrade for this, just because of like it's not. Well, they did say new story missions,
Yeah.
so that's what I usually really taper to the how much is this should be worth. So like the fact that they're adding so much with like the Ikushima, I can see the possibility, but I also am not going to just blindly say, "Oh, it's worth it, man. You got to just trust me on this one."
And again,
Yeah,
it has the problem of like, because we already got the 60 frames patch and it already looks beautiful enough. Like, what's the true justification of the actual PS5 upgrade, other than probably maybe getting another platinum trophy if you want that? So I
I
can
would
kind of see,
think.
but even then, it's I don't know.
Um,
It's just weird seeing these two directors cut back to back and seeing the way they priced it and what they include.
I think what it is this is that era of just like the remaster age, where this is like the director's cut age, but we don't have a solid benchmark for how much something like this should cost.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone's kind of throwing out their idea. What I like to consider the similarity for is like art commissions.
Mm-hmm.
There's no real benchmark. It's just based on the skill that you understand this person's at, what they're doing, what it is. And sometimes you think that's way undervalued or that's way overvalued for
Yeah.
what this person is doing. And it's just kind of like this weird mishmash of what's going on. The only problem with this is that, like for art, you can tell somebody and they can adjust those prices. They're not going to very readily
Yeah.
adjust these prices unless it goes on sale.
This is also weird because we have to remember we're also in the era where Xbox has smart delivery and a bunch of the upgrades that
Yeah.
they're putting
So all
for
this
their
is
games is
free
free for
anyway.
them. So that's what makes it look weird. But then at the same time, I always thought that putting that proposition on the Xbox side was awesome from a pro consumer standpoint, but also I felt kind of bad for the devs because they didn't like porting up something and making it look prettier, run better. That's not an easy go to the options and just put this is 30, let's put it 60. It requires a bunch of work.
It does.
And maybe the way that they're justifying is that we're giving this price because we're making X amount of money in Game Pass, so we're gonna funnel that to our devs. But who knows? Because no one knows how the money's made work with what Microsoft's earning through Game Pass, and we know that that thing's not profitable right now. So it makes it seem like like the way I see it, it makes it seem like Microsoft is taking a huge loss, doing all these things just to make it them seem more pro consumer, so people can sign up there. Even though I feel like people do, like anyone that does improvements like this, if you actually see that work has been put, yeah, you can definitely charge for it. It's just weird because now in the market there's like someone that's not charging at all, and then we got people over on the Sony side that they're actually all charging different things, or others are just putting a patch. Because that's the thing, like kind of like I was mentioning with Last of Us, they just put a patch. No, you didn't have to pay anything and all that. I don't know if visually they also tweaked anything. I don't know, but it looks beautiful enough. So, like to me, like the Kishima thing, $20 for an expansion, that's fine. We paid for expansions many times. That's like no, that's nothing new. It's just more like the upgrades also that they're also charging for the upgrades. So that's what makes it because I know for a fact that that trending thing, like the 4K 60 frames, that's just exclusive to the director's cut. But it's just $10 and they're putting all the things that they're expanding upon. For $10, that's a lot. So it's weird. it's really weird. Like this strange time that we're in right now with like the things that are free upgrades and the things that are not. So, but hopefully by this time next year, we'll be past this cross generation era. So we don't have to be worried because right now we're in that weird transition period of like those games that came out super late in the previous console that might as well can also be played now in the current console and start getting some advantage taken care of. So we'll see when this stops, but at the moment, this is where we're at.
Yep.
Number 3, Paul, time for a tinfoil hat section.
What's happening, crazy person town, Alejandro?
All right, so the tinfoil hat segment is always in regards to Blue Balls games or actually Blue Box games, and Abandon, the game that will never shut up. Blue Box games put up a tweet. Interestingly enough, I don't think I've always put this. I during when I had my Pepe Silva moment 2 weeks ago, when he kicked to this garbage. I forgot to mention every time that they tweet, they always tweet at 3 a.m. in the Netherlands. They say they're in the Netherlands. So they claim. What time is that in Japan?
Like 9 or 10 a.m.?
Yeah, always like so. 3 a.m. Netherlands, 10 a.m. Japan, all the time, every tweet that they put up. They announced in the tweet that the app, the one that got delayed after the freaking countdown ended 2 weeks ago, or 3, I don't even remember how long it was.
I think it was 2.
Yeah, that Friday that the countdown ended, and then he put the video be like, oh yeah, we're delaying this thing. Apparently it can be preloaded. You can preload a freaking app on July 29th. And then on August 10th, there's going to be an introduction available, followed by a first trailer later in August. What in the F is this developer even doing? Like,
they are either doing the craziest backflip in history in regards to marketing, or they're definitely doing more behind the scenes than they're revealing.
Yes. That's the thing. I've reached a point because they've delayed this now. If it's not what everyone thinks it is, this is gonna crash and burn. And I would rather see them crash and burn for playing like blue balling everyone, basically.
Yeah.
And just playing with fire the way they've been doing, like not making it very clear, like just being this strange. It's so weird. I would say this. I put this up following the state of play thing because they had mentioned specifically that their first party news were going to be coming later in the summer. When does summer end, Paul?
August?
Yeah. So is this telegraphing when this Sony event? Because let's not forget, the reason why this thing is gets so much attention was because it was announced with its Unreal Engine asset flip that they put in the PlayStation blog that it was a PlayStation exclusive. So if in August it's the end of the summer, and that's when Sony's planning to talking about more news about Horizon, the next God of War, or whatever it's with their exclusives. Is it telegraphing when we're actually going to see it? And the app is kind of like a tease and all that. But that's the thing, like it continues to befuddle me to no end that an unproven studio that has a failed Kickstarter as their previous thing, they're allowed to do this kind of thing.
I think it's either the fact that it's on PlayStation is giving them away on the later in August thing, like you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
I think that at the very least might be like that middle ground option. It's like it's not what everyone wants it to be, but it is lining that up. Or it is one of those situations where the people running this place are under the impression that any PR is good PR.
Yeah.
And it might not have been what they wanted it to, but then they're like, well, wait a minute. Even if it's not what all these people want, there's no way our sales are going to be worse than if nobody had heard about us.
Yeah. It's
So I'm
seeming
like,
it's seeming that way, but I'm just shocked that Sony is allowing an exclusive for them.
at least for now.
Do this. Like that's the thing. They never done an app for any of their exclusives. They're high profile games.
That's what's throwing me off.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
the fact that they're doing something this big, this early, it's like it's either something bigger than what they're saying, or they somehow got access to do that. I don't know, like behind the scenes how that works, but there's clearly got to be some kind of rule in place that normally doesn't allow them to do that.
And this is again why the tinfoil had surrounded this whole thing, and maybe it being a Kojima thing or not. That's why it gained so much credence, because the only one that has ever gotten away with this was him, with Phantom Pain and PT.
Yeah,
because he's the only one in the industry that has done like an art style lead up to anything. So, and this has like this has his fingerprints all over him. That is just so insane. So yeah, we know now. If July 29th, I have a PS5 now, so I'll download that sucker. Let's see if it's still 48 freaking gigabytes, as was seen in the API when people thought they could download that thing on the Friday that it got delayed in that moment. Like, I hope for their sake it is what people think. If it's not, I won't care if anyone burns them to the crisp. Number 4.
Oh, okay.
More details and reports. I think this came also from GamesBeat, Jeff Grubb, are being surfaced about the nature of the alleged Dead Space comeback that we heard about a few weeks back. That should be announced later this month at the official EA Play presentation. There's been like speculation about whether this is this is gonna get the remastered treatment, like Mass Effect Legendary Edition is gonna be something else. Apparently, what it's gonna be, it's a remake in the vein of Resident Evil 2 and 3 from Capcom, for the first game. So I'm excited for that because, well, first it will depend on what engine they use, like what engine they're going to use to recreate the Ishimura and the appropriately creepy vibe. But I feel that thing with modern coat of paint with like darker blacks and all of that, I think that could be really cool, because
I think it would, but I also worry if they're going to undercut it by making it more of a middle down the line shooter rather than actually sticking to what made it great.
Yes, because that's the thing. I would hope this would be like from the ground up remake, kind of like, let's go to the Activision remakes, like the Crash Bandicoot Insane trilogy. That was remade from the ground up, but it was still the same game.
Yeah, I would love that.
Everyone remembered. So I would hope, like the Resident Evil 2 and 3 remake are very particular, because those games that were fixed cameras, differing angles and all that, they got remade on the over the shoulder thing. That was not, even though as you go through that, especially at the beginning when you're in the police station, everything was faithfully recreated to how it used to be. It's just that the camera you were giving a different camera angle. But that thing worked, and that's still a creepy, super creepy game. Especially, it's so funny that you finished RE3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the part where you go to the police station from RE2,
Right. That was
It's,
pretty cool.
and it's just as creepy. It's so funny that police station is the creepiest compared to
It's
everything
very
else around
good
the
at
game.
it.
Yeah. So
But I will say Carlos felt like a freaking Rambo with
yeah.
all of the bullets he had.
Yes.
It felt nice though. I will
Yeah.
say, going back to that and just everything that was moving in that building felt really nice. Anyway,
Yeah. So that's what that space already was an over the shoulder thing. So I would hope that if it being a remake, it would be a visual remake, the way the Crash and Saint trilogy was, because I feel the first Dead Space, I can't find anything to really fault about it, like or what it tried to do. Like
yeah.
I really can't. So as long as they make it at a properly visual, scary game on that vein, because Dead Space started getting less and less scary the more action it started going. So at the time Dead Space 3 came out, it was a full-on action game. So
I would argue that the second one blended the action elements, but
with the
I
horror,
was
yeah.
genuinely terrified at
Oh
many
yes.
places.
I feel the second game specifically, it's at its scariest when you see her girlfriend.
Oh, dude.
Yes, like
When at the start of the game, when it shows like the suicide version of her and she climbs on the table and screams at you,
yeah.
I needed to put my controller
Oh
down
no,
for a
here's
minute.
no. I think that my part of this one where you're finishing crawling through like an office and you go there and then she drops. She has like a needle and you have it here. And then
That's
you
true.
realize it's not,
If you
that's the one
mess
that jumped.
up,
Yeah.
because I've messed that up before, and then she just goes right in.
Yes.
Also, the weird needle thing in your eye in that machine.
Oh yes.
That was some of the most
Now
stressed
it
I've
makes
ever been.
because that's the thing. And even though the first game's the creepiest one, Dead Space 2 is my favorite of all of them. So I am wondering.
Also, his outfit is better, I think.
Yes. Oh yeah, it looks so much better. He has better the way everything feels in the game. It just feels better. The shooting feels better. The movement feels better. He feels less stiff. The horror momentum of that game and the creepiness of it still sticks up. It's just 3 the one that really missed the mark.
Yeah.
And it really makes me wonder if this first game is depending what kind of remake it is. If it's just a visual, or they're actually remaking a lot for it to be different than what it was. If it's just visual remake, I hope this one sells well enough. Everyone, like people that have been claiming they want this, kind of like people were claiming with Star Wars that what they wanted was single player stuff, and they showed up for Jedi Fallen Order and Squadrons. So the Squadrons have multiplayer stuff, but it's still like you can get like people put their money where their mouth is when it comes to Star Wars. That they all should put their money where their mouth is when it comes to Dead Space, so that it justifies EA continuing with this series again. And maybe if the remake route is where they're going, maybe Dead Space 2 is next. And then I would be very excited. At the same time, let's not forget that if we really want the feel from the creator, we have the Callisto Protocol coming soon in 2022, hopefully. Well, it's at 2022, if I remember correctly. Hopefully, it's on schedule. So, and it looks just perfect in capturing that vibe. Glenn Schofield is recapturing his Dead Space vibe with his new studio. Final story, Paul, and here is a very tragic one, I would say, because Ubisoft is not tired of shedding all sense of goodwill in regards to their franchises. Bloomberg reported the company has tasked both its Ubisoft Montreal and Ubisoft Quebec, the 2 studios that have been like alternating between Assassin's Creed games lately, since like Unity was Montreal, or was it Toronto? I don't remember. It was they've been like switching back and forth.
Yeah,
that's what they've been like pumping those out quickly from like Syndicate, then to Origins, then to Odyssey, and then back to Valhalla. They've tasked both those offices to make an Assassin's Creed game that will be full on our favorite word, Paul, that makes us so excited when we hear it. A live service game, which is gonna house everything involving Assassin's Creed moving forward. All of this, despite the fact that both Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Assassin's Creed Valhalla, their most recent and most bloated entries yet, have basically been live services already, with a ton of post-launch support, both paid and free. With Valhalla being the first one that will actually get 2 years worth of post-launch content. The other ones was at least a year before we move on to the next one. Also, I forgot to put in here, both Odyssey and Valhalla are the best-selling ones. So it's not like they're strapped for money. This new Assassin's Creed live service allegedly titled in the most corporate way Assassin's Creed Infinity, is supposedly just starting development and it's aiming for a 2024 to 2025 release. So the series may actually see a break right now from its close to annual biannual release schedule because of this. As disheartening as this news may be for the people that enjoy the series in its current form, that's me, one glimmer of light is that Far Cry 2 and Splinter Cell Chaos Theory director Clint Hawking, whose last project included the ambitious Watch Dogs Legion, a game that probably with a little bit more time could have fulfilled that ambition compared to other things they've done, is one of the main heads of this project. So at the very least, Ubisoft has tapped one of its more valiant creatives to handle this seemingly misguided endeavor. I showed you the tweet thread. Was it last week?
Yeah. The stuff that Jason Schreier was sharing in addition to this news.
Yes.
How about you tell me your thoughts on it? And I want to play devil's advocate. I'm feeling gutsy.
This is clearly a money move all the time. Like we talked about this, that why does the live service model clearly does not work for everything. It works for the few. And the live service model is always one that you never get right the first time. It's like obviously everyone looks at Destiny. People forget Destiny is 7 years old.
And it failed a
couple of times, twice. Mm-hmm. It failed with Destiny 1 because of launching the way it undercooked. And then in Destiny 2, when it launched, it failed twice because it forgot the lessons they learned from the first Destiny, because they followed the numbers, because they focus tested the thing, they brought in the suits, they thought about how can we maximize this and bring in people, and they completely forgot what made a live service work because they want more money for more new people to come in. And then they have to like rework the game since then to get it where it's at now, which is in a pretty good spot. The Division, another live service, didn't launch well. Took them until patch 1.4 to get it a decent state. And then at that point, that game was abandoned because they were moving to the sequel. The Division 2 actually learned some of the lessons from the Division 1. So it launched better as a result. They couldn't quite keep up with the support and all that. It didn't sell as well. And expansion content has been very miserly for that one. They had the Battle of New York's expansion, which was solid and actually better than the main game because it went back to the city that made the game creepier and more eerie compared to Washington on Division 2. Oh, that's my dog. Did you hear my dog?
Only briefly, but it was like indistinguishable
from other stuff. Yes. By the way, because of where I'm at, Vegetable Man will never be heard again.
Hey.
Yes. R.I.P. Vegetable Man.
I miss him.
Yes. But now we have my dog. So if the thing gets picked up here. So Division 2 like barely has had any time to properly expand itself. Mm-hmm. Because it didn't hit sales targets. And then let's not forget my favorite, Ghost Recon Breakpoint, that compared to Wildlands that had post-launch support and all that, Breakpoint was designed as a live service. And that thing failed miserably, that even though they still kept out with it, no one talks about it. Yep. Moving into other live services, Anthem, a game that's so dead that flowers are already sprouting from where it's been buried.
It was launched with flowers on its grave.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Yeah, another one. Yes. And a recent heartbreaker of mine, because I love the property so much, Avengers. A game that had a great campaign, because Crystal Dynamics is great at campaigns with its Tomb Raiders. But then because they looked at the market and they were like, hey, we need that. And they saddled probably one of the worst live service components I've ever seen in a game, where probably the worst loot possible, like an amazing combat system that gets so much right. Like I played a little bit on PS5 now that the thing runs properly. The combat is so great in some of the characters that are more melee based. I would even put it in Devil May Cry territory with like combo chaining and powers and all that.
That is a very gutsy saying.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's a kind of combat that you can chain move and all that feels satisfying. Mm-hmm. But then that combat is wasted on not bullet sponge, but like spongy enemies that don't react as well. And then it's like at the mercy of the grind for loot that doesn't make them, that it's not even cosmetic. That's the thing. In loot games, you earn loot so you look cool and it makes stuff. But they can't, because the live service model the Avengers game pursued was for you to buy skins, really cool skins. They recently, Black Widow came out last Friday, which, by the way, the movie's fine. They put the Black Widow white skin from the posters for you to buy. You can't earn that in game because the only monetized thing that they put in that Avengers game is just skins, because every content was going to be free, and they have not been able to fully support substantiatable content for Avengers. That there's a Wakanda expansion coming in August. I think that's their final Hail Mary for that one, if it's going to be worth keeping up or not. And you hear this entire list, and I'm like, why would anyone want to keep doing live services? Like, why? There's so few that have been successful. So little, and it requires so much time to get right. And you have to be willing to put in the time. And someone put a Photoshop of one of the characters from The Office. Oh my God. Was doing a presentation, and she just put the Assassin's Creed Infinity next to it, and I was laughing hysterical. I'm going to show you the image. This is how this feels. And this is how Breakpoint. Did you also, your theory about Breakpoint?
Oh yeah. And I mean, I picked that one up on for $10. I actually played it a little bit last week, now that I think about it. A game that I love the efforts of actually shooting and playing the game, and I hate everything about the story and everything else about it. Took off the gear, and then it's like it had something really good there that got really messed up by corporate greed. Mm-hmm. But let me give you what I think could be a possible option for this new Assassin's Creed project / property.
I want to hear.
So I want you to think back when you played Assassin's Creed Unity.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
You remember that?
The big list?
The list of, like, it feels like they've been trying to do something like this, whether it be their fictional Abstergo Entertainment situation or their real life situation. They've been wanting to get a grouping of all these settings and all these options to pick from and play through under the umbrella of one big process, one big set of resources, and just to let you interchange all of that easily, to jump between characters. Like, you are now the Desmond Miles of your story almost. And I think, one, that's kind of set the stage for what they've been wanting for a really long time. Two, I think, like you said, they've been experimenting with live service, quote unquote, for years now. And I think they're from Origins, which was like interesting idea, not the best execution.
Yeah, that wasn't live service at all. Odyssey was the first one. Yeah.
But like, they've been experimenting with elements of it is a better statement.
Free events, free things.
And then Odyssey freaking killed it, both on the setting, the post launch support, the extra was it like it had a whole Atlantis expansion?
Yeah, it's the second expansion on
top of that.
Yeah, the first one was the Legacy of the First Blade, where
that's what it was. And then from there, going into Valhalla, which has a solid foundation, dare I say it. I have to give them credit where it's due. It feels good a lot of the time to play. It's like, if they had taken these quality of life, this is gonna be crazy. I'm gonna get burned at the stake for this. If they took the quality of life from Valhalla and put it into what The Witcher 3 was, think about The Witcher 3, great everything, but some of the fundamentals are just really janky.
I'll say it, the combat in The Witcher 3 sucks. Burn me to the stake also. That combat's not good.
No, I will agree to an extent. It's very specific in a certain way because of the way it was described in the books, but I agree it was not expanded on the way it needed to be. Anyway, so yeah, I think Valhalla has something really there. And once again, like you were saying, it's going to get 2 full years of post-launch support. Actually
Mhm.
makes me kind of curious about looking it up again one day.
Mhm.
Um, I think if they make something that they really not adhere to, but they really commit to for a certain amount of time, I think they can really make something good out of it. Because something like this, if they want to really stick with it, they're going to have to put that polish in. They can't just
Mhm.
throw a game at the wall and hope it sticks
Yeah, and that's
like
kind of
all
where
of the
I'm.
others.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I get the idea, because I actually, since you mentioned it, I actually remember someone mentioned the whole Unity list of settings before you pick the only one that you can pick, and that
Right.
helix thing, and kind of like, yeah, oh, that's is this a T? So because there were like previous settings were there, the Ezio ones, the Shay Cormac one,
The
uh,
um
the
the
Ezra
PSP
Can
game.
the Ezra Kenway, the PS well, the PSP game was Altair, the Vita game was
Vita.
Aveline.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Which I
Aveline
never
game.
played, but I
It's
knew they
in
put it on PS4 eventually.
if you buy Assassin's Creed 3 Remaster, it includes it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's all together. If the only way I can accept this is if as it keeps expanding, the environments that you get the same time, the same love, the same care that the environments that they put in every Assassin's Creed game have.
Yeah.
How big will this game be? If
It would
it's
be just from the storage standpoint would
yeah,
be a
yeah,
nightmare.
exactly. It would be a nightmare if they do that. And
I mean, what I think about is think about it from the perspective of Destiny, where you have like instead of planets, what if those are the settings, and you
mhm,
go into the settings or you go to a hub world.
yeah,
I don't think I would like that very much, but I can see
they would
what
have
they
to,
might
because the
want.
only way that could work is that if every hub world that they make, if every new setting is going to be housed in this thing, it will only have to be 1/3 of the size of what they've been doing lately
Each of these games.
in each of these games. They would have to go back to Assassin's Creed 1 and 2 style sizes of cities. If you remember it, because a bunch of those games have a bunch of cities, but each city
Yeah.
wasn't that big, but it was big
It's
enough that you didn't feel
within
shortchanged.
right, but then it
Like,
had to do like a loading thing to get each world actually there. It wasn't like one
yes.
big area. Even Assassin's Creed 2, it had decent areas, but they were all
Mhm.
split between loading
Yeah, the
screens.
loading screens, which obviously we're now in the. This is going to be a full next gen project, so we got the SSD of the Xbox Series X and the PS5.
If it's
So loading,
made for that from the
yes,
ground up.
yeah, I would be shocked if by 2024 and 2025 people are still targeting PS4 and Xbox One. It would
That's
be
true.
mental. So
Because
I
at
think
least they were smart enough back in the 360 era when they did Unity and then they made Assassin's Creed
Rogue,
Rogue for 360 and
yeah,
PS3. A game that I've never actually played. Now
it's
that I
a
think about it,
you can get it.
I
The
can.
Assassin's Creed Rogue Remastered. It goes on sale very often, so I'll let you know when it hits
Yeah,
sale so you can get
maybe
it.
I will. I'm not sure.
It's a shorter Black Flag with a better story,
Oh, okay,
but not as expensive as Black Flag.
that's
But it's
true.
the same
Because I love
mechanics.
Black Flag.
I love that Black Flag
One
too.
of my favorite.
Yeah, I love the
There
world
you
of Black Flag, but not the story structure of Black Flag.
Yeah,
But the world is so great that it overcame it. That was like it gave us Wind Waker again.
yeah. That
In
is
a way,
pretty much
in a
it.
way,
Yeah.
but without the cartoon star. It's I feel like Ubisoft slowly has shown that they're probably the worst company when it comes to monetizing a live service game. And that's what scares me. That's what terrifies me. It's like they're close to giving EA and Activision a run for their money with greedy practices and XP boosters and time savers and all that crap that you find
That
that,
is pretty bad.
especially in Ghost Recon Breakpoint, really was the breakpoint, literally and figuratively, of their greed completely overreaching there.
Mhm.
And that's what makes me scary. And here's also a thing, like things don't last forever. Are we about to see like I have had this feeling that the live service bubble is about to pop. That it's gonna because these trying to you know the Avengers game took 5 years to make. They
Yeah,
started pre-production after Crystal Dynamics finished Rise of the Tomb Raider in 2015. And it came out in 2020, and it still came out a buggy mess that even when they patched it, you were in fear of getting doxxed because your IP address was there. Like the live service model is like such a hard one to like maintain and get right and develop timely and all that. And people say, but Fortnite makes it well. But Fortnite is just one thing. It's a competitive thing. You don't lose when that get like it's a battle royale.
Right.
People like the actual live service model that everyone pursues is Destiny. And the thing with Destiny is that it is profitable enough for to keep Bungie afloat and keep supporting it and keep supporting their massive studio. But Activision had to drop that bad boy because they were the one like that initially were like funding it and publishing it and all that, and they were not seeing the returns that they wanted that were massive compared to like what Bungie felt comfortable was happy enough for them. That's why they severed their relationship. All these companies that want this live service, they want all the money.
Yeah.
That's the problem. They put so much, they take so much money to make it. They take so long to make. And this is so misguided, especially like they're doing this after Valhalla and Odyssey sold so well. They're not money strapped. That's the thing.
They just don't want a single player game anymore.
Yeah.
Well, a solo focused single player game. They just really want something wide and expansive with possible multiplayer.
Exactly. And what about multiplayer? Will this be finally the full realization of what they wanted to do with Unity? Is this Infinity, which is funny? It ends with Unity, Infinity. Is this the realization of unrealized ambition because they didn't have the full time to cook it of Unity? Is this what this was leading all up to? It's what's interesting is that if they're going to be doing this, we're not going to see a new Assassin's Creed game in a while, which I would say may probably be to its benefit because this is a series that lost its excitement because of its constant annualization. Then it took this break and came back. So it does make me wonder that if there will be a hunger for this, or if the market, if the live service market is going to explode to such a degree, like that it's not sustainable. That companies realize this is a fool's errand. We can't do this anymore. And by the time this come out, they already have lost a lot of time because they were making it a live service when that model was not worth pursuing anymore because it's already precise. It's clearly not worth the ROI. I fear they're going to murder Assassin's Creed by doing this because I don't trust current Ubisoft. Like Ubisoft, why I've lost the respect of Ubisoft mostly, it seems that they don't listen to what their fans want.
They don't.
They don't. Like fans have been clear. We don't like these bloated Assassin's Creed games. They're too big. Rein them in. No, we're making them bigger. We want Splinter Cell. Give us a Splinter Cell. Yeah, here is Splinter Cell inserted into Rainbow Six Siege, inserted into Ghost Recon Wildlands and Breakpoint, inserted into a stupid mobile game. Give us Rayman. Nah. It's like I've lost massive respect of you for Ubisoft because it seems that they don't listen to their fans.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, I didn't put this in, but all of this is happening while there's still internal strife at that studio because of the Me Too movement that ravaged the gaming industry back in June 2020. Yeah. Specifically, Ubisoft was the one that got ravaged by it, where they had to like fire a bunch of like top heads, and apparently there are some toxic people that still remain in that studio. And this toxicity is apparently creating attrition between its employees that they're leaving. Things are rotten in that studio. Things are like massively rotting, and it sucks that the studio that from the big three, from the Activisions, the EAs, and the Ubisofts, the one that was always I could rely to make games that would appeal to me, specifically the kind of gamer I am, especially when Activision sacrificed everything at the altar of Call of Duty, and EA had to receive the massive kick to the balls that was the Battlefront 2 fiasco and seeing a bunch of their games completely crash and burn, like Battlefield 5 and Anthem.
Officially stating that they're not going to be continuing their partnership.
Yes. And they will still work with EA. They just lost the exclusivity.
Right,
They're
the
not the only
exclusive
ones. Yeah, they
partnership.
lost exclusivity for that. It's like, ironically, it seems like EA is the one trying to turn a leaf. Just the fact that they allowed Mass Effect Legendary Edition to come out really good. They allowed BioWare to
No
rework their old
crazy
games.
additions.
Yeah, with no crazy additions and all of that. And people really generally loved what they did with that. Jedi Fallen Order, they allowed Respawn after everyone screeched that they wanted a single player game. They were like, fine, Gears 1, have at it.
And then
And
it did amazing.
It did amazing. For it to have sold more than Battlefront 2, it's insane.
I did not know that. That's awesome.
It sold more than Battlefront 2. That's insanity. Wow. Because conventional wisdom would have told you that Battlefront would have sold better because it's a multiplayer competitive game. And the market tends to say that. No, Jedi Fallen Order sold more. And that was even with EA giving them a shoestring budget, releasing that game half-baked. Because let's not forget, that game launched with a bunch of bugs.
Yep.
And it still did really well. And they released a PS5 version, which is amazing. Yep. Not the PS4 version patch, the PS5 version, amazing. Also. So it's like, Dead Space, they're bringing back Dead Space. Like EA goes through these waves. Like the EA is back to the 2008 self when they were releasing Bad Company, when they released Mirror's Edge, when they released Dead Space, like when they were being a little bit more weirder. But it seems like they're the ones that actually react to getting a kick in the balls. I don't know what Ubisoft needs. If Yves Guillemot, the dude that has run the company, has to leave. Like they sacked the Sergei Gasco guy, the one that was at fault of homogenizing the entire portfolio of everything being an open world tower climbing checklist game. Like that dude got fired. Like that dude had to be let go because of he was one of the ones that got ravished most by the Me Too accusations last year. And what's scary is that even with the guy gone, and despite the fact that they had, remember, not so long ago, Ubisoft had said that they had made a committee with each person that was going to be assigned a franchise to figure out a way to make them unique. What happened to that? Did a bunch of those guys got ravished by the Me Too and they leave and they had no committee anymore?
I wouldn't be surprised, but I would almost say they said it and then it never really got anywhere because it doesn't have the power that it needs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it really worries me that even though a symptom of the homogenization problem that plagued later Ubisoft left last year, it seems that we're moving into even more homogenized territory now. And I just hope people speak with their wallets.
Yeah.
That's all. And that's the only, people spoke with their wallets with EA. They had people can't seem to speak with their wallets with Activision. That's why they keep sacrificing everything in blood to the altar of Call of Duty. Like Ubisoft needs that, because if this is what their franchises are going to be like, whenever they finally bring back Splinter Cell, it's going to be a live service spy game. It's like, F off. Like, I'm sick of that company. And Paul, this is the end of in a very downbeat note, this is the end of our show this week. Paul, where can people find you?
As always, they can find me at Twitter at Dork of Art, YouTube also at Dork of Art, and Twitch at Angel Sword 21. Got to stream for the first time in a very long time just last week. So you could probably currently see that video until it gets taken down, as Twitch has decided to not allow us to keep videos there.
Yeah, we have to become partners before we can keep them. So we have to keep streaming a lot.
Because even with Prime, it only keeps it for about 60 days, and then you have to clip it or highlight it or something.
Highlight it for it to be there. Yeah.
Taken away.
Yeah, and then you can also find me at twitch.tv/theflaregiant. Now that I have a better room setup, I already have everything set up to start playing now. You can find me at Twitter at @A_Segovia. You can find me at Instagram at AlejandroSegovia93. And you can find me at my website, thecriticalcorner.com. So, Paul, like always, it's been a pleasure. Let's see what the next week brings us, because this summer never ends. And until next time, press X
To play.
See you later.
Adios.